If you're following along, with Jerry Jones during the press conference where he exposed the piece of paper, remember that, General Lucia, where he holds up the paper with his trying to make a point about where they had.
Yeah, made an amazing meme out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he's holding up a piece of paper with, well, you've got some guys and gals around the country that are pretty talented at deciphering these things.
Yeah, probably working a forensic team or something like that. I'm surprised it took them so long.
Well, the Athletic and John Machota put this list out, and I was kind of going through it, the list, and just looking at it myself, and I think these guys on the Athletic have got it nailed. Now I'm gonna reach out when the dust all settles and see if exactly this is where their board was as far as that what Jerry was showing. But I think some guys and gals might have got this right. So, but just taking what they had and the list that the Athletic had, I found it interesting in a couple different ways because of the way they stack their board. As far as some of these positions, because we were talking about it, guys, that, okay, we know they like Treylon Burks. We know they really like Drake London. We know they like Chris Olave. But it was Garrett Wilson who was their number one wide receiver on the board. He was 4th overall. Drake London being at number 10. And then Jameson Williams, the Alabama wide receiver, was at number 14 on the board. We really hadn't talked much about Jameson Williams at all. We kind of thought that Olave, Burks, those were the guys. They evidently felt like that Wilson, London, and Williams were probably going to be gone. So they got to that point where Olave was gone and then Burks was gone. They probably felt like that they maybe had a chance at either one of those guys. The interesting one is Jahan Dotson from Penn State. They had him right behind Burks there in the second round. That's a little bit of a smaller receiver. And we were thinking, well, maybe they're not going to take kind of a slot-only guy, but they had a second-round grade on Dodson, and he was their 6th best receiver on the board. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Hey, let me ask you about this space between 14 and 15. Is that their drop from first to second round?
That's a drop from first.
So they had 14 first-round players?
Yeah, that's the way it went. And what's funny was, if you look at this, General, when all is said and done, their 13th best player was a safety, and that was Cine, the safety from Georgia, was Lewis Cine. So he was the 13th best player on their board. Well, they took a second-round project instead of the 13th best player on their board. That's kind of what that confirms. Yeah, if this board is accurate and so then, we talk about window dressing and tag jumping and stuff like that. They gave, it was interesting because they had 3 safeties on their board. And that was
so
fascinating.
That means they're really interested in the position.
They were Hamilton at 8, Lewis Cine at 13, who actually has a better, and then right behind TylerSmith was Dax Hill, the Michigan safety at 18. So, I mean, okay, I could get it if you're stacking your board and you're saying, okay, say Lewis Cine was 17 and then Dax Hill was like 19 and they went on that. But if that's the case, they actually jumped a tag.
How much would you have liked the pick more if it had been Cine?
I had Cine as a higher rated player on my board.
Wow.
Now on their board, of course, that wasn't
pretty high at 13.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the thing I'm thinking, like, because this team we normally don't talk about. Well, this team doesn't like safeties. They must not, 3 of them.
They must not feel like Malik Hooker is a long-term player for them.
No, they must not. And what was also interesting is they didn't have any of those linebackers in the first round, like Devin Lloyd and Quay Walker. Where they're like their 2 top linebackers on their board at 17 and 32. So what was also interesting too is they had Tyler Linderbaum. We talked about that. We asked Will McClay that question yesterday. Is like, hey, what do you think about Tyler Linderbaum? Well, they had a 2nd-round grade on him. They actually, where he was the 25th best player, that's exactly where Tyler Linderbaum went. As went to the Ravens at 25. So they had the player in the right area, and they had him in a place where they could have picked him too. It could have been, but again, now also what's interesting, guys, TylerSmith on the board is listed as an offensive lineman, not a guard or not a tackle, just as an OL.
Oh.
So with that being said, you kind of look at him maybe because they keep telling us he's a left side player.
Sure.
So is he going to start off as a left guard? And then the plan is to move him to left tackle. You know,
it's very interesting, and Steven talked about that on the Pro Football Talk podcast. We'll get into that in depth at 420.
Yeah.
But I think they're holding out on something, and it kind of explains why they've been hesitant to say factual things about Smith and their plans for him.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going on with TylerSmith.
Yeah, I think that's something. I think
they want to see how ready Tyler is over the summer.
I do. I think you're on to something here. I think that they're probably feeling like that maybe TylerSmith here he might give you your 12 games and then it's like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We've got to move on.
Yeah.
And maybe they feel enough about TylerSmith that they can kick him outside. They've done
plays at guard until Tyron's hurt, then he goes out to tackle, and we see if he's ready to do that permanently.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, the information coming out. Thank you so much to everybody there on Cowboys Twitter and the forensic scientists around the nation that have deciphered exactly what was on that page. I have no idea how they do that. That's because it looks all blurry. The still shot they get.
I was talking with some people about it, and they were talking about name length and stuff like that, and matching up things. But one more final thing too.
Sure.
Breece Hall, running back from Iowa State, they had a running back. They had a running back, and their top running back was in the second round at number 19. So the 19th best player on their board was a running back. So think about that going to the future with Zeke's and people like that.